Hi, everybody. Welcome to the unit activity for the energy use and organisms unit. This is the one and only activity that we're going to be doing for this unit. I want to back up just a touch and show you where we are. We are here inside of Unit 3. Just a quick reminder, we did macronutrients and micronutrients. We also did photosynthesis and cellular respiration and introduction to energy. So we did those three already. This activity, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, was a an, um, an assignment, but it was a voluntary assignment, and we're not doing this one, the biology research project. But we are doing the energy use and organisms activity. I'm actually unlocking it right now. And we're also going to be doing the post test, so I'm going to unlock that too. Whoop, unlock. And we're going to save that. But I'm going to carry you guys through this. To be clear, I just want to show you, you've already seen this week, but you're taking the mastery test, you're doing the activity and the unit post test. So let's go over here to the unit activity. The idea here is that what we're going to be doing this week is asking you to analyze your diet and compare it to nutrient recommendations from the government, from a website called MyPlate, and it's a government-ran website that is based on nutritional science. It's a really good website. They've set it up to where it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of reading and stuff, but in terms of actual work for you, it's not that big of a deal. Essentially, I'm going to ask you to complete 3 days worth of a food diary, write down everything you eat for 3 days, and you kind of look each one of those up and compare those to what the government says you should be eating. And I know that when I say government, a lot of you guys go, well, I don't trust the government, but I don't either, except in this case. I believe they've got this nutrition thing in good shape. So let's do a quick reminder that in this unit, we took a look at where energy comes from between photosynthesis and cellular respiration and how that whole process works. We also talked about macronutrients and micronutrients, talked about what, fats, lipids, and carbohydrates were. We also talked about the vitamins and the minerals. Well, we're going to kind of apply that now to our diet because, to be honest with you, we live in a society, the United States, in which the leading cause of death is people eating too much. People die more from strokes and heart attacks than anything else in the United States, and as a result, that comes directly from our diet, what we eat. If you look at this picture here, you see lots of vegetables and fruits, with a few protein sources like the eggs and maybe a piece of chicken over here. But, does your plate look like that when you eat it? Do you weight a plate of food? Do you get a nutritional, when you're having a meal, does it have mostly fruits and vegetables in it, or do you fill it full of starches and meats? If you're like me, you tend to eat more starches and meats than you should, and we kind of want you to see that. So you've heard all of your life, eat your vegetables. You've heard all of your life, watch what you eat. And this is kind of what it means. If you aren't consuming a pile of fruits and vegetables uh, as part of your diet, and then proteins, believe it or not, healthy proteins are important, and healthy carbs. I mean, we're going to talk about all that, but that's going to be something that really affects your energy level, your weight, your development. I mean, especially while you're young. I was very active when I was young, and I ate a lot, but I also was very active. But I injured myself, and it caused me my activity to drop. And so, yeah, still ate the same. And guess what happened to poor old Mr. Thomas? Put a little bit of weight on, right? So, let's take a look at. I like this next page because it has a picture. If you think of your plate, what should it have? Well, half the plate should be fruits and vegetables. Now, if you don't eat off of a plate, if you're eating like a sandwich or something, then the sandwich should be mostly fruits and vegetables, and then grains. And when we say grains, we don't mean we need you to think about healthy grains. Now, healthy fruits and vegetables. The only thing you need to know about healthy fruits and vegetables is the only way to make them unhealthy is to smother them in things like, butter or cheese or something like that. A little bit of cheese isn't a problem, by the way. If you want to have a little bit of cheese on your vegetables, just sprinkle some on, like Parmesan or something. If you want to eat your fruit in your morning cereal, that's all fine and dandy. But remember, the butter and the cereal counts towards your dairy, and look how much dairy and protein you should be eating. Right? it should be a quarter of the plate, and one serving of dairy. And we tend to do that backwards. We tend to eat tons of grains and proteins and dairy, and very few fruits and vegetables. Very few fruits and vegetables. So what we're suggesting is that you start changing your diet. Okay, you'll notice this is split down the middle this way, but not this way. Why do you think they did that? Okay, this is not a graphic that's just showing you four parts. These parts are supposed to be kind of suggestive of how much you should eat. Why do you think they want you to eat more vegetables and fruits? Because fruits contain a lot of sugar, and it's healthy sugar. But if you eat too much fruits, then you could have an issue with sugar. So, this is a great proportion to be looking at. And the proteins, that's going to be your meats, needs to be pretty much between your proteins and your dairy. It needs to be the smallest things. And when you choose grains that are healthy for you. These are the whole wheat grains. These are the grains that don't cause your blood sugar to spike. Like if you had to choose between a piece of white bread or a piece of whole grain bread, choose the whole grain bread. And if you say, ugh, I can't eat that, you need to train yourself. Because I used to be that way. I only ate white bread, and then I've trained myself to eat whole grain bread, and now I love it. So it's just a matter of training your mind. And if you're going to let your mind decide how you eat, you will eat very poorly. Okay, eating is discipline. You can eat well and enjoy your food if you and still have a little bit of discipline and not be unhealthy. Um, I have a problem with this. I have to teach myself this constantly. And then, of course, when I talk to my students, it's the same thing. So here's the assignment. What we're going to do here is you're going to track and analyze your food intake. You're going to keep a food log for 3 days. You can keep that food log wherever you want. You can open up an Excel page, a Google Sheet page. You can keep it on a piece of paper, but just write it down. And when we get to writing it down, I want you to actually try to write down, give me a rough estimate of how much, okay? So that you can decide whether it's one serving or two, because all the information you're going to get is based on servings. So a serving of vegetables is, like a pretty good spoonful of vegetables. A couple of spoonfuls, really. It's like like on like a Dixie plate. It's that corner piece, that little plate area on the side. That's a whole serving of vegetables. If you eat all of that, then you have gotten a whole serving. A serving of fruit would be like one large piece of fruit, like an apple. Or an orange, those little cuties that you get at the store. It actually is two or three of those to make a serving. A banana, that sort of thing. A piece of meat, a serving is usually, to be clear, serving sizes for meat are different, whether it's beef and pork. They're smaller than if you're eating chicken or fish. A serving of chicken or fish is about the size of your hand, maybe larger. A serving of pork or beef is actually about the size of a deck of cards. So one hamburger patty or one small pork chop or something like that. Don't forget that if you eat bacon for breakfast, that is a serving of meat, a serving of protein. So you need to kind of think about your food this week in terms of servings and how many servings you're having, and start writing them down. Now, if you wanted to, you could take this so far as to use measuring cups, measuring spoons, and a kitchen scale. Um, and that would be fun to do, but I figure a lot of you guys aren't going to do that. So start writing it down, and we're going to start collecting our data. The first thing you got to do is go to the My Plate page. So if you click this link, it'll take you to the My Plate page. I want to be clear though, sometimes these links, when we get down here, some of these links aren't right. So I've actually put these same links here in the calendar. They're just in order right here. Use these because I know the grain and the protein, they weren't right. These links right here for, not here, these links right here for grains and proteins, they're not right, and I can't fix it. So, use those links that I gave you there, because I found the right ones. Now, on the My Plate plan, this is where it takes you, that first link. Yeah, I love it. It's also available in Spanish, and if you prefer Spanish, please use it. Over here, this is your Get Your My Plate plan, and this is where you're going to start. I'm not going to start it yet. I'm going to start it in just a minute, but that's where you need to be. And that's all you have to do. Open that up and start keeping your log. Start writing it down. That's part A. Part B is to actually go back. Well, actually, part A. Sorry, you're going to. I'm moving too fast here. Part A is collecting the data. So question number one is after evaluating your My Plate recommendations, so we are going to do this, make a prediction. Do you think your diet will meet these daily recommendations? Are there things you need to change? Okay, so we are going to do this. We're going to click start. Okay, and then you're going to put in some information. Nobody's going to see this. No one is going to see this. I will not see this. Okay, so if this is something that you're a little self-conscious about, don't worry. You don't have to show it to me. I do not need a screen picture of this, so I don't need to know how much you're going to weigh or anything. Just this is for you to do. I've already done this, so my number's already in here. So I'm 50 years old. I'm a male. I weigh 240 pounds. I am 6 feet 1 inches tall. I'm a pretty big guy. But sadly, even though I'm very tall, that 240 pounds is starting to show in my belly, because of this right here. I do less than 30 minutes of moderate activity a day. Since I started becoming a virtual school teacher, I walk into my office, sit down all day, and don't do anything. And I try to make myself get up and go outside and do something, but I get caught up in it. Next thing you know, it's been 2 or 3 hours since I've done anything, and I'm starting to notice it. But anyway, I do less than 30 minutes a day. You be honest. Be honest. Nobody's going to see this but you, and look for an honest answer. All right? Do you do 30 to 60 minutes, or do you get outside? If you're putting this down, it's because you're probably an athlete. You're up and moving around a lot, okay? Or you've got a job where you work outside. Some of you guys do that. That's what you put there. Me, I have to pick this because I'm being the honest. Then I click calculate my food plan. Now, when I go to calculate my food plan, I'm given two options. I don't know if you are, but I'm given two options. Do I want to maintain my current weight? I can have up to 2,800 calories a day. If I want to achieve a healthy weight, I'm going to have to drop down to 2,400. Now, to be honest, your numbers will probably be lower than this because you're probably not as big of a person as I am. A bigger person gets to have more calories per day, uh, but you choose. You may be down below 2,000 on this, but if you're a smaller person, you don't need 2,400 calories a day, especially if you're trying to achieve a healthy weight. Uh, I don't want to do it, but let's click to achieve a healthy weight. So if we click achieve a healthy weight, it takes us to the page where it starts showing us how much you can eat. Whoa, okay, how much you can eat. And this is what you need to be looking at. You need to be down here comparing what you normally eat to this, okay? And be very honest. Do you have 2 cups of fruit a day or 2 servings of fruit a day? I will tell you, I meet that. I do that. When I go for a snack, I keep apples in the refrigerator and bananas. And sometimes I'll cut that, like for breakfast this morning, I had a yogurt and granola and a half a banana. Um, I will eat that apple. I keep grapes in the refrigerator. So I do my fruits, okay? And the same thing with my vegetables. I enjoy eating my vegetables with my meals. So I do pretty good on my fruits and vegetables. Now, this is where I tend to have a problem. I tend to eat more than 8 ounces a day of the greens. Look at what 8 ounces is. One slice of bread, one slice of bread, or 1 ounce of ready to eat cereal, which I've already had in my cereal this morning, or a half a cup of rice. That to me, this is where I face my problem because that's ridiculous. It's incredibly small. No way do I eat just one of these a day. I probably eat um, each one of these daily, and it's more than what they're saying here. So, where I'm supposed to pick one of these, I'm probably getting 6 of these. So, that's where my problem comes in. My protein isn't that big of a deal because eating too much protein generally doesn't cause too big of an issue. You'd have to eat a lot of protein before you start seeing a problem. If you notice, there's a whole read more thing, so there's a whole page here, and we'll come back to that. That's something for you to look into yourself. That's what all the rest of these links are. Um, in fact, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to proteins in just a minute. The dairy, 3 cups. Now, that's 3 cups of dairy is actually a lot for me. I probably don't eat that much dairy. Now, I do eat the yogurt for breakfast, and I do tend to put a splash, nowhere near a cup, of the milk into my coffee in the morning, and then I have some cheeses, right? So I don't think the dairy is really my issue. The issue is obviously my grains. But let's take a look at the proteins. So for each one of these, if you click these, the links are up here, by the way. Every time where it says read more, these are the links that are right here. There's fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. Well, there's fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. So these are all the same links. So if you click read more, it's going to take you to the page that's just for proteins. I already had it pulled up over here. So let's just go there. Take a look at everything up here that's protein. You got some chicken. I think that's fish. I think that's salmon. That's canned chicken. That's looks like a meatball. Looks like a pork chop. There's fish, but beans. Okay. Um, these little beans are great sources of protein, and they're far healthier for you than eating meat. Now, I'm not telling you not to eat meat, but I'm saying eat it in moderation. You guys remember, I come from a cattle family. I want you to eat beef. Okay, but I'll be the first to admit that um, you need to supplement or actually eat more beans and white meat than you do red meat. Protein like the nuts from the peanut butter. There's even some legumes like these are lentils. These are I think this is quinoa. It may be just another form of lentil. Eggs, an amazing source of protein. There's some the thing with anything here that comes from an animal though, all this meat and these eggs and this isn't cheese. This is tofu, so it's not from an animal. But all these things that come from an animal also come with cholesterol and some fats. So when you eat your proteins, a lot of times you're also eating your fats. And so you have to be very careful about what's coming into your food. Eggs have fat. They're half protein, half fat. Plus they have cholesterol. Now this is called tofu. It's actually the curd coming from a seaweed product. Now, you may roll your nose at that, but it's actually really good and it's incredibly healthy for you. And, seaweed has gotten a bad rap because it looks, when you go see seaweed in the ocean, you're like, ugh, I'm not eating that. But if you process it, it's actually incredibly good. So, if you want to have a protein consistency that's like cheese but doesn't come from an animal, then you can get that tofu. I'll tell you something that's not up here are some cheeses. Cheeses can be a good source of protein, specifically something like cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is an outstanding protein source that doesn't have to be high in fat, and even though it comes from an animal, it's a very good choice. So, if you as you go down here, there's some links here. How much protein foods are needed daily? Is important to make low-fat proteins, and there even discusses some vegetarian choices if you choose to be vegetarian. But I would encourage you to read through this and let it teach you some things about making good choices. Um, and, here's something: why should eat fish at least once a week? And a lot of us don't, but that's because I don't live next to the ocean, and I have to admit I don't include this food source in my once a week. I don't, and it should actually be from the ocean, not from fresh water, because it contains lots of vitamins. But I don't do it, right? So read through these pages. Do yourself a favor and teach yourself something, all right? And then you're going to come back and you're going to evaluate what this thing says you. I want you to look at what this says you do, because just what I did with you, and then have a discussion with it. My answer here would be I do pretty good on the fruits and the vegetables and the dairy. My protein choices probably have a little too much fat, and I eat way too many greens. That's what I would put there, right? Um, Here's another example, but don't copy it. Then we drop down here to question two, and this is for the next 3 days. Follow your normal diet. Don't make any changes, but just write everything down and be honest. If you grab a little pack of Little Debbie snacks, write them down, okay? Because you need to know. I think a lot of the problem with our diet is that we're just not conscious of what we eat. And keeping a food diary just helps you see what you eat. And you look back and you go, God, I ate that today? I didn't know I ate that. Oh my God, for the last 3 days, look how many Little Debbie snacks I ate in the last 3 days. Or look at how many cookies or chips I had in the last 3 days. I think that really would help a lot of people. So what you're going to do then is once you kept track of your normal diet, take a look at what you're supposed to be eating, compare to what you do eat, and then come back and kind of revise your plan. And so there's a way to do the My Plate plan I thought there was, maybe not, but you can look at your daily calorie intake. That's what you're supposed to look at, is your daily calorie intake. Remember where it said 2,400, 2,800 for me? Write down what it recommends for you. And then actually what you're supposed to do is go in here and write down per group how much you're supposed to eat. So just write all that down. It was in plate or it's in cups, I think. So write it down. And then um, yeah, so here we go. All right. And then finally for part B and towards the end here, does your plan match your actual food intake? And this is where you go, oh, no, 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 I eat way too much of this and not enough of this. And write that down, right? And then finally, what can you create a My Plate plan and you know try to figure out what someone else would eat. All right, it's a pretty straightforward assignment. Shouldn't take you too long, but I wanted you to see it first thing because technically it's going to be due this weekend, and this isn't that big of a deal. So don't stretch this thing out and make it take too long. Don't spend a ton of time on it, but answer the questions. All right, that's the end of this, and get to work.